Dr. Amy Carter wiped the sweat from her forehead as she stared at the strange wall in front of her. The ancient alien ruins on planet Kepler 442c had kept her team busy for 3 months now. Every day brought new discoveries about the Zephyrians, the alien race that had vanished 50,000 years ago. The dig site stretched for miles across the red desert. Tall stone towers reached toward the purple sky, covered in symbols that no one could read. Amy's team had been working day and night to understand what this place meant. It was clearly important to the Zephyrians. The buildings were too grand, too carefully made to be anything ordinary. Amy knelt down and brushed dirt away from a small opening in the wall. Her heart raced when she saw what was inside. A crystal, perfectly clear and shaped like a pyramid, sat in a carved slot. It glowed with a soft blue light that pulsed like a heartbeat. "Captain Morrison, you need to see this," Amy called into her radio. Jake Morrison's voice crackled back through the speaker. "What did you find, Doc?" "I think it's some kind of data storage. The crystal is still active after all these years." Within minutes, Jake arrived at the dig site with Dr. Lisa Park, the team's language expert. Lisa was the best at figuring out alien writing systems. If anyone could understand what the crystal contained, it would be her. "Careful with that thing," Jake warned as Amy lifted the crystal from its resting place. "We don't know what it might do." Amy carried the crystal to their mobile lab. The small building buzzed with computers and scanning equipment. She placed the crystal on the main scanner and watched as data began flowing across the screens. Lisa's eyes grew wide as symbols appeared on the monitor. "This is incredible. The writing is much older than anything we found before. It's like finding the first book ever written." For hours, Lisa worked on translating the symbols. Amy and Jake watched over her shoulder as she slowly made sense of the ancient language. The crystal contained many texts, but one file was marked differently from the others. It had special symbols around it that seemed to mark it as very important. "I think this is some kind of prophecy," Lisa said, pointing at the screen. "Look at these markers." In Zephyrian culture, they used these symbols for their most sacred writings. Jake leaned closer. "What does it say?" Lisa's face went pale as she read the translation. "It talks about the end of the old order, a species that will come from a world of blue and green in the outer part of the galaxy. It says they will bring change that will shake the foundations of everything." Amy felt a chill run down her spine. Blue and green world in the outer spiral. That sounds like Earth. "There's more," Lisa continued, her voice shaking slightly. "It describes this species in detail. 2 arms, 2 legs, walking upright. It says they are aggressive, but also protective. They adapt to anything and refuse to give up, even when death seems certain." Jake crossed his arms. "That could describe a lot of species." "No, wait," Lisa said, scrolling through more text. "It gets more specific. It says they come from a world with 1 moon. Their star is yellow. They have different colors of skin and hair. They fight each other but unite when faced with outside threats." The lab fell silent. Amy felt her mouth go dry. Every detail matched humanity perfectly. Lisa's hands trembled as she reached the end of the prophecy. The final line is the most disturbing. It says, "When the youngest race speaks of peace, the oldest power shall tremble." And then it gives a name for this species. "What name?" Amy whispered. Lisa turned the screen toward them. There, glowing in ancient Zephyrian script, was a single word, but the computer's translation program had already converted it to English. "Humanity," Lisa read aloud. Jake stepped back from the screen. "That's impossible. This prophecy is 50,000 years old. Humans didn't even exist when the Zephyrians wrote this." Amy stared at the crystal, its blue light still pulsing steadily. Unless they didn't write it as a prophecy, what if they wrote it as a plan? The 3 humans stood in the lab, each lost in their own thoughts. Outside, the alien sun was setting, casting long shadows across the ancient ruins. The Zephyrian buildings seemed different now, less like monuments to a dead civilization, and more like warnings left for the living. "We need to study this more carefully," Amy said finally. "There might be other clues in the crystal." Lisa nodded and turned back to her work. As she dug deeper into the files, she found technical diagrams, star charts, and what looked like biological data. The Zephyrians had been watching Earth's solar system for a very long time. "Jake," Amy said quietly, "what if this prophecy isn't just about humans? What if other alien races know about it?" Jake's expression grew serious. "If they do, and if they believe it's true, then humanity might be in more danger than we realize." The crystal pulsed brighter for a moment, as if responding to their conversation. Amy picked it up and held it to the light. Through the clear surface, she could see more symbols floating inside, waiting to be discovered. "There's something else in here," she said. "Something the main scanner couldn't read." Lisa looked up from her computer. "What kind of something?" "I don't know yet, but I have a feeling this prophecy is just the beginning." As night fell over the dig site, the three humans worked by artificial light, unaware that their discovery would soon change the fate of every intelligent species in the galaxy. The Zephyrians had left them a message across 50,000 years of silence, and that message was both a warning and a promise. The news of the prophecy reached Earth within a week. From there, it traveled to the Galactic Council faster than anyone expected. Commander Rick Davis had been looking forward to his mission to Nexus Prime Station. It was supposed to be a simple, diplomatic visit, the kind that happened every few months between humans and the alien council. Rick stood on the bridge of the human ship Endeavor, watching the massive space station grow larger on the main screen. Nexus Prime was the size of a small moon, built by 12 different alien races over thousands of years. Its towers and domes sparkled with lights from a dozen different civilizations. "Beautiful, isn't it?" said Katie Stone, the ship's pilot. She was young but had more flying experience than most people twice her age. "Always is," Rick replied. "But something feels different this time." Ben Hughes, the communications officer, looked up from his station. "Sir, I'm getting some strange readings from the station. There's a lot more encrypted traffic than usual." Rick frowned. In all his years of diplomatic work, he had never seen the council act secretively around humans. They were usually very open, sometimes too open. Dr. Helen Brooks joined them on the bridge. As Earth's top ambassador to alien species, she had been to Nexus Prime many times. She knew the council members personally and could read their moods better than anyone. "The docking instructions seem normal," Helen said, checking her tablet. "But they've assigned us to a different section of the station. One that's usually reserved for dangerous cargo." "Dangerous cargo?" Katie asked. "What's that supposed to mean?" Before anyone could answer, Ben's console lit up with an incoming message. "It's from Council Speaker Vexthara. She wants to meet with Dr. Brooks immediately after we dock." Helen nodded. "That's not unusual. She always likes to greet human visitors personally." But when they docked at Nexus Prime, things were clearly not normal. The usual crowds of alien tourists and traders were gone. The docking bay was almost empty, except for security guards from different council species. They watched the human crew with unusual interest. Rick noticed that some of the guards were carrying weapons he had never seen before. "Helen, have you ever seen those energy rifles?" Helen studied the guards carefully. "No, those are military grade. The council hasn't carried weapons like that in the public areas for over a century." As they walked through the station corridors, more strange things became obvious. Alien civilians moved quickly past them without making eye contact. Shop owners closed their doors when they saw the humans coming. Even the air seemed tense. "This is really weird," Katie whispered. "Usually everyone wants to talk to us. Humans." are still pretty new around here. They reached the council chambers where Vexthara was waiting. The Altarian looked like a tall, thin human with blue skin and silver eyes. She had always been friendly to humans before, but today she seemed nervous. "Dr. Brooks," Vexthara said formally. "Thank you for coming so quickly." "Of course," Helen replied. "Though I have to say, the atmosphere here seems different today." Vexthara's silver eyes darted around the room. "Yes, well, there have been some developments. Please sit down." The meeting room was larger than usual, and Helen noticed that several other council members were present. Usually, first meetings were just between her and Vexthara. Today, representatives from 8 different species sat around the table. "We have received some disturbing information from your archaeological team," Vexthara began. "About a discovery on Kepler-442, C. Double quotes, Helen kept her expression neutral. "The Zephyrian ruins?" "Yes, it's quite an exciting find. Dr. Carter's team has made remarkable progress." "Remarkable," repeated Morden, the council archivist. "He was a creature that looked like a walking tree with glowing bark. That is one word for it." "We are concerned," said another council member, "about the implications of this discovery." Helen felt her patience wearing thin. "What implications? It's an archaeological site. We're learning about an extinct civilization." Vexthara leaned forward. "Dr. Brooks, are you aware of what this prophecy contains?" "I've read the initial reports," Helen said carefully. "It appears to mention Earth and humanity." The room fell silent. Several council members exchanged glances that Helen didn't like. "It does more than mention humanity," Morden said slowly. "It describes your species with impossible accuracy. Details that no one could have known 50,000 years ago." "What are you suggesting?" Helen asked. "We are not suggesting anything," Vexthara said quickly. "We are simply concerned about the stability this discovery might cause in the galaxy." Helen stood up. "Stability? Are you saying that humanity is a threat to galactic stability?" "Please sit down," Vexthara said. "We are not accusing anyone of anything. We simply want to understand how this prophecy could exist." But Helen remained standing. Years of diplomatic training told her that something was very wrong here. "Where is the rest of my crew?" "They are being well cared for," Morden assured her. "We have provided them with excellent accommodations. I want to see them now." "That might not be possible at the moment," Vexthara said. "We have some security concerns." Helen felt her heart racing. "Security concerns about what?" Before anyone could answer, Mardoon's communication device began beeping frantically. He looked at it, and his wooden face showed what might have been surprise. "What is it?" Vexthara demanded. "There has been an error in our classified systems," Morden said, his voice shaking. "Some files have been transmitted to the human ship." Helen's tablet chimed with an incoming message. She looked at it and felt her blood turn cold. The message contained dozens of classified council documents, all about humanity. There were surveillance reports on human colonies, military assessments of human capabilities, and most disturbing of all, transcripts of secret council meetings. One transcript was dated just 3 days ago. The title made Helen's hands shake. "Emergency Session. Prophetic Threat Assessment. Species Human." "Dr. Brooks," Vexthara said urgently, "please understand that we have acted only out of caution." Helen looked up from her tablet, her face pale but determined. "Caution? You've been spying on us. You've classified us as a threat. And now you're holding my crew against their will." "The prophecy speaks of great change," Morden said. "Change that could destroy the order we have maintained for millions of years." "Maybe your order needs to be destroyed," Helen said quietly. The words hung in the air like a challenge. For the first time in council history, a species younger than 1,000,000 years had dared to question their authority. Vexthara stood up slowly. "Dr. Brooks, I think this meeting is over." "Yes," Helen agreed. I think it is. As Helen left the council chambers, she knew that everything had changed. The age of peaceful cooperation between humans and the ancient alien races was ending. The prophecy wasn't just predicting the future anymore. It was creating it. The Galactic Council made their decision in secret. If the prophecy was real, they needed to test humanity. If humans were truly as dangerous as the ancient text claimed, then the galaxy needed to know. They chose the cruelest test they could. Imagine that the Void Swarm had been sleeping for 300 years in the dead space between star systems. The Council knew exactly where to find them. These creatures were like a plague that ate everything in their path. Entire civilizations had fallen to the swarm before. Even the mighty Council feared them, but the Council was clever. They would not attack humanity directly. Instead, they would guide the swarm toward human colonies and see what happened. If humans died, the prophecy was false. If humans survived, then the Council would know the prophecy was true. Colonel Steve Martinez was having his morning coffee when the alarm started screaming. The new Dallas colony had been peaceful for 5 years. The colonists had built farms, schools, and small factories. It was supposed to be a safe place to raise families. "Colonel," shouted Lieutenant Maria Santos as she ran into his office. "We have contacts coming in fast from deep space, lots of them." Steve grabbed his jacket and followed Maria to the command center. The room was full of panicking technicians staring at their screens. What they saw made Steve's heart sink. "How many?" he asked. "Over 1,000 ships," Maria replied. "They're not responding to any communication attempts." Steve studied the tactical display. The incoming ships moved in perfect formation, like a school of fish. But these were not fish. These were Void Swarm bioships, each one the size of a building and hungry for organic matter. "Sound the colony alarm," Steve ordered. "Get everyone to the shelters. How long do we have?" 6 hours until they reach orbit, Maria said. "Maybe less." Steve looked around the command center. He had 12 Marines, 6 defense turrets, and a handful of mining equipment that could maybe be used as weapons. The colonists included farmers, teachers, and engineers. None of them were soldiers. "This is impossible," said Tony Garcia, the colony's chief engineer. "We can't fight 1,000 Void Swarm ships with 12 Marines." "Then we don't fight them head on," Steve replied. "We make them think we're not worth the trouble." Mayor Susan Clark arrived at the command center with several other colony leaders. She was a small woman with gray hair, but everyone respected her leadership. "Colonel Martinez," she said calmly, "what are options?" Steve appreciated that. She asked for options, not just evacuation plans. "We can't outrun them. We can't hide from them, so we have to outthink them." "The Void Swarm operates as a hive mind," said Dr. Rachel Adams, the colony's medical officer. "They share information instantly across all their ships." "But that might also be a weakness." "What do you mean?" Tony asked. "If we can confuse one part of the swarm, we might confuse all of them," Rachel explained. "Like giving a computer virus to their whole network." Steve nodded slowly. "Tony, what kind of equipment do we have that we can modify?" Tony's eyes lit up. "The mining drones. We use them to dig tunnels and move heavy rocks. They're tough and they can carry explosives." "How many?" 43 working drones. "Turn them into bombs," Steve ordered. "Can you program them to act randomly?" "Sure, but why randomly?" "Because the Void Swarm expects predictable behavior," Steve said. "Every species they've ever fought has used logical military tactics. We're going to use chaos." Over the next few hours, the colonists worked together like never before. Farmers welded armor plates onto mining drones. Teachers programmed random flight patterns into the control systems. Engineers turned agricultural chemicals into explosives. Paul Wright, who ran the orbital defense platform, had an idea that seemed Completely crazy. What if we don't try to stop them from landing? What if we let them come down and then hit them when they're confused? That's suicide, Maria said. Maybe, Paul replied. But the Void Swarm has never faced an enemy that invited them to attack. Steve made the hardest decision of his life. We let them land, but we don't go down fighting, we go down thinking. When the Void Swarm ships reached New Dallas, they found something they had never encountered before. The human colony was not hiding. The defense systems were active but not firing. The colonists were broadcasting on all frequencies, but not calling for help. They were sharing recipes, stories, and jokes. The swarm's hive mind was confused. This behavior did not match any known military strategy. The delay gave the humans their chance. 43 mining drones launched from hidden positions around the colony. But instead of flying in formation toward the enemy ships, they moved in completely random patterns. Some drones flew upside down, others spun in circles. A few simply sat in the air and played music. The Void Swarm tried to target the drones, but their weapon systems could not predict where the drones would go next. The hive mind became more confused when several drones deliberately flew into asteroid fragments, destroying themselves for no apparent reason. Then the real attack began. While the swarm was focused on the dancing drones, colonists in hidden positions fired makeshift weapons at the bioships. They used modified farming equipment, reprogrammed construction robots, and even kitchen appliances converted into weapons. "This is working," Maria shouted over the noise of battle. "They don't know how to respond to random tactics." The breakthrough came when Dr. Rachel Adams noticed something important. The swarm ships are trying to communicate with each other more frequently. The confusion is spreading through their network. Steve grabbed his radio. "All units, increase the chaos. Do anything that doesn't make sense." The colonists responded with enthusiasm. They began broadcasting cooking shows during the battle. Mining vehicles drove in figure-8 patterns while firing their cutting lasers at enemy ships. Children sang nursery rhymes over the military communication channels. The Void Swarm's hive mind, which had conquered 1,000 worlds, simply could not process what was happening. Their perfect coordination began to break down. Ships collided with each other. Some bioships began attacking their own forces. Within 3 hours, the impossible had happened. The Void Swarm retreated from New Dallas Colony, leaving behind dozens of damaged bioships. The colonists had not only survived, they had won. "How did we do that?" Tony asked, staring at the retreating enemy fleet. "We did what no other species has ever done," Steve replied. "We fought a logical enemy with completely illogical tactics." Mayor Susan Clark smiled as she watched the last Void Swarm ship disappear into deep space. "I think we just proved that the prophecy might be real." Unknown to the colonists, alien observers had watched the entire battle. The news would spread across the galaxy within days. Humanity had defeated the undefeatable Void Swarm using tactics that made no sense to anyone except humans. The test was complete. The prophecy was real. And the galaxy would never be the same. The news of humanity's victory over the Void Swarm spread across the galaxy like wildfire. Despite the Galactic Council's attempts to keep the battle secret, word traveled from species to species. Ancient civilizations that had lived in fear of the swarm for millions of years suddenly had new hope. Dr. Amy Carter was still working at the Zephyrian dig site when she received an unexpected visitor. Kethmer was a member of the Rigelian Collective, one of the 12 Council species. But unlike the other Council members, he had come to offer help instead of threats. "Dr. Carter," Kethmer said through his translation device, "I believe your people have proven something very important." Amy looked up from her latest excavation. She had found another crystal, larger than the first one. "What do you mean?" "The Void Swarm has never retreated from a battle before. In 3 million years of recorded history, they have either won completely or been destroyed completely. They have never simply left. Amy set down her tools. You think this proves the prophecy? I think it proves that humans are exactly what the prophecy described, Kethmer replied. And I think the Council is terrified of what that means. Over the next few days, Amy and Kethmer worked together to study the new crystal. This one contained much more information than the first. There were star charts showing the locations of hidden Zephyrian sites across the galaxy. There were technical blueprints for machines that seemed impossible to build. And there were more prophecies. Look at this, Amy said, pointing to a section of translated text. The Zephyrians didn't just predict humanity would come. They prepared for it. The crystal revealed that the Zephyrians had tried to create the species described in their prophecy. They had used genetic engineering, selective breeding, and even attempted to build artificial life forms, but every attempt had failed. They couldn't make themselves into what the prophecy required, Kethmer observed. So they waited for evolution to do what science could not. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the political situation was changing rapidly. Ambassador Helen Brooks found herself in the middle of a diplomatic revolution. Species that had been loyal to the Galactic Council for thousands of years were beginning to question the old order. The Rigelian Collective was the first to openly break with the Council. Their representative, Veltar, made a public announcement that shocked everyone. We have served the Galactic Council faithfully for 8,000 years, Veltar declared. But we have seen what happens when fear rules over wisdom. The humans have shown us a better way. The Canopus Federation quickly followed. Their leader, Zexoni, was even more direct in her criticism. The Council tried to destroy humanity using the Void Swarm as a weapon, she announced. This was not justice. This was murder. We will no longer be part of such actions. Helen Brooks watched these developments from her temporary headquarters on Nexus Prime. The Council had placed her under house arrest, but they had not blocked her communications. She could see that the galaxy was splitting into two camps. Those who feared humanity and those who welcomed them. It's happening faster than anyone expected, she told Rick Davis over a secure channel. The prophecy talked about the great unraveling, and I think we're seeing it now. Rick was aboard the Endeavor, which had been joined by ships from 6 different species. Helen, we're getting requests for alliance from all over the galaxy. Species I've never even heard of want to meet with human representatives. What does Earth Command want us to do? They're sending more ships, Rick replied. But they want us to be careful. This could turn into a war. The real breakthrough came when Captain Jake Morrison's team made another discovery. They had been following signals from the galactic core, strange transmissions that seemed to be activated by the presence of human ships. These aren't natural signals, said Katie Stone, studying the sensor readings. Someone built transmitters out there. Big ones. Jake ordered the fleet to investigate. What they found changed everything. Hidden in the space around the galaxy's central black hole were massive structures left by the Zephyrians. These weren't ruins like the ones on Kepler 442c. These were active installations, waiting for the right species to activate them. They're defensive systems, reported Tony Garcia, who had joined the expedition after the battle at New Dallas. But they're not aimed at protecting the galactic core. They're aimed outward, at the Council worlds. Dr. Lisa Park worked frantically to translate the control systems. These aren't weapons designed to destroy, she said. There's something else. Something that will change how the entire galaxy works. The Zephyrian installations contain technology that was beyond anything the current galactic civilizations possessed. There were engines that could move entire planets, communication systems that worked instantly across any distance, manufacturing devices that could build anything from pure energy. But the most important discovery was in the central control room. Amy Carter, who had traveled from the dig site to join the expedition, found a final message from the Zephyrians. 2. The species that fulfills our prophecy, Amy read aloud. We leave these gifts, not as weapons, but as tools. The galaxy has grown old and afraid. Its rulers have forgotten how to dream. You who are young, you who adapt, you who refuse to accept defeat, take these tools and make the galaxy new again. The message continued with technical instructions, but also with a warning. The old powers will resist change. They will call you destroyers. But destruction and creation are the same process. To build something new, the old must be cleared away. Do not fear their anger. Fear only becoming like them. Jake looked around at his mixed crew of humans and aliens. So the Zephyrians weren't just predicting the future. They were planning for it. They knew their civilization was ending, Amy said. But they also knew that someday, a species would come along that could finish what they started. Kethmer, who had become an unofficial ambassador between humans and the rebel alien species, made an observation that chilled everyone. The Council will never allow humans to control this technology. They would rather destroy the galaxy than lose their power. Then we don't let them make that choice, Jake replied. We make it for them. As the human fleet studied the Zephyrian technology, more alien species declared their independence from the Galactic Council. The galaxy was indeed unraveling, just as the prophecy had predicted. But whether this unraveling would lead to destruction or renewal remained to be seen. Back on Nexus Prime, Council Speaker Vex Thara called an emergency session. For the first time in Council history, they were discussing the complete elimination of another species. The humans must be stopped, she declared. The prophecy cannot be allowed to continue. But even as she spoke, Vex Thara could see doubt in the eyes of her fellow council members. The great unraveling had begun, and nothing would ever be the same. President Lara Thompson stood before the United Earth Assembly with the weight of the galaxy on her shoulders. The past months had been the most challenging in human history. The Galactic Council was preparing for war, while dozens of alien species were asking Earth for protection and leadership. Members of the Assembly, Lara began, we face a choice that will define humanity's future. We can use the Zephyrian technology to defend ourselves, or we can use it to heal a broken galaxy. The Assembly Hall was packed with representatives from every human colony and nation. They had all seen the reports from the Galactic Core. The ancient alien technology could make humanity the most powerful force in the galaxy. It could also make them the most hated. What does the military recommend? Asked Representative Johnson from Mars Colony. General Patricia Wells stood up from her seat. The technology gives us overwhelming advantages. We could defeat the Council fleet easily. But that would make us exactly what they fear we are, Lara nodded. Dr. Carter, please share what you found in the final Zephyrian archives. Amy Carter walked to the podium. Her months of archaeological work had made her the leading expert on Zephyrian culture. The Zephyrians faced the same choice we do now. They could have used their technology to conquer the galaxy. Instead, they chose to wait for a species that would use it wisely. And how do we know we're that species? Asked Representative Kim from Luna Base. Because we're having this discussion, Amy replied. The Council would have already used the weapons. We're debating whether to use them at all. Lara made her decision that day. Earth would share the Zephyrian technology freely with any species that wanted it. They would not use it as a weapon unless attacked first. Most importantly, they would invite every alien race to help build a new kind of galactic government. The announcement sent shockwaves across the galaxy. Commander Rick Davis was put in charge of the new Galactic Cooperation Initiative. His first task was to convince the rebel alien species to work together instead of just against the Council. This is harder than fighting the Void Swarm, Rick told his crew aboard the Endeavor. At least the swarm was predictable. Katie Stone laughed as she piloted them toward another diplomatic meeting. Nothing about humans is predictable. That's why we keep winning. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Council Speaker Vex Thara contacted Rick directly, asking for a private meeting. She arrived alone on a small ship, something unheard of in Council history. "Commander Davis," she said, "I want to talk about surrender." Rick was surprised. "Whose surrender?" "Mine," Vex Thara replied. "The Council's. We have ruled the galaxy for so long that we forgot how to change. Your people are forcing us to remember." They met in a neutral location, an old trading station between human and Council space. Vex Thara looked tired, older than her millions of years should have made her. "The younger Council members want to keep fighting," she explained. "But some of us remember what the galaxy was like before we took control. There was chaos, but there was also growth. Innovation, hope. What are you proposing?" Rick asked. "A merger, not a conquest. The Council's experience with the humans' energy. Together, we might build something better than either of us could alone." It took months of careful negotiation, but slowly the new system took shape. The Galactic Cooperation Initiative replaced the authoritarian Council with a democratic federation. Species advancement was measured not by age or military power, but by contributions to science, art, and the well-being of others. Dr. Helen Brooks became the first Secretary General of the new Federation. Her experience with both human and alien cultures made her the perfect choice to lead the transition. "We're not trying to make everyone human," she explained in her inaugural address. "We're trying to help everyone become the best version of themselves." The transformation wasn't easy. Some Council hardliners tried to sabotage the new government. A few species attempted to use Zephyrian technology for conquest. But for every problem that arose, the diverse Federation found creative solutions. Tony Garcia led a team that included engineers from 12 different species. They used Zephyrian manufacturing technology to build new cities, clean up polluted worlds, and create art that no single species could have imagined. Dr. Amy Carter made the most important discovery of all in the deepest Zephyrian archives. The complete prophecy was longer than anyone had known. The final section explained the true meaning of the Great Unraveling. "It's not about destruction," Amy announced to the Galactic Assembly. "It's about unraveling the knots that held everyone back. Fear, tradition, the belief that change is always dangerous." The prophecy's true message was about potential. The Zephyrians had seen that the galaxy was stuck in endless cycles of rise and fall. Young species would grow powerful, become afraid of losing their power, and then stagnate until they were replaced by the next young species. "Humanity breaks the cycle," Amy explained, "because humans never stop being young at heart. Even when we're old, we keep trying new things." Ben Hughes, now head of Galactic Communications, helped establish schools on thousands of worlds. Human teachers worked alongside alien educators to share knowledge and encourage curiosity. Children of dozens of species learned together, creating friendships that would last lifetimes. The biggest test came when Katie Stone led the first expedition to another galaxy, using fully integrated Zephyrian technology. The ship carried crew, members from 23 different species, all working together as equals. "It's strange," Katie said as they prepared to leave the Milky Way behind. "A year ago, most of these species had never even met humans. Now we're exploring the universe together." Paul Wright, who had helped defend New Dallas Colony, was now captain of a ship that could travel between galaxies in days instead of centuries. "The Zephyrians would be proud," he said. "We're doing what they always dreamed of." Back on Earth, President Laura Thompson watched the launch from her office. The prophecy had been fulfilled, but not in the way anyone expected. Humanity hadn't conquered the galaxy. They had convinced it to conquer itself, to overcome its own fears and limitations. The final line of the Zephyrian prophecy, which Amy had found just days before, made everything clear. When the youngest race teaches the oldest races to be young, Again, the great unraveling will be complete, and the galaxy will be reborn. As human and alien children played together in schools across the galaxy, as mixed crews explored new worlds, as former enemies worked side by side to solve ancient problems, the prophecy's true meaning became obvious. The great unraveling wasn't about ending the old order. It was about helping it grow up. And in the deep archives of a dozen worlds, new prophecies were being written. Not by ancient aliens this time, but by the children of all species, dreaming together about what they might accomplish next. The galaxy was young again, and anything was possible.